they put all this nanotechnology inside of it because it's the lunar light lock energy, right? It's a Palladian light lock, and that connects you back into the matrix in the form of reincarnation. So when you die on this planet, your soul and your spirit is usurped into a gas planet, right? And they usurp that energy into a supercomputer and project it back down on the planet. So now you have computer generated souls and spirits on this planet who are basically Agent Smiths of the matrix system. So this is why I say a lot of people on the planet are not chosen, so to speak, because everybody is operating from a psychological egregore, meaning that they're basically emulations of them, emulations of each other. Because just at a mental frequency, because you got some people who have a veneration for politics, you got some people who have a veneration for religion, you got some people who have a veneration for everything in the material world. Yeah, they have a veneration for money. So like I said, all of that is conducive to the Saturn moon matrix system. So now, as far as being the carbonated energy, now who we are as carbonated people, that is Saturn is also the symbology of the word of the numerical spectrum of 666, but a lot of people demonize 666 when you're talking about the Bible, but it's really talking about the carbonated man and woman, 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, because our awakening is the antichrist of their matrix system. That awakening starts when you have that open vortex in March. Or some say it's March, some say it's August.
So what's this? When you was talking about reincarnation, you mentioned the supercomputer. What's the supercomputer that recycles the body back into this matrix?
I know that it's a supercomputer on the dark side of the moon, and it's basically operated on binary code systems. And the binary code system creates this dualistic principles to where you stuck on polarity, because duality is not reality. Just like for example, you got rich, you got poor, you got positive, you got negative, but all those are basically illusions. Basically, the best way to beat the matrix system is to operate from 0 point energy to where you cannot be compromised by anything that's based on polarity. That's why I say everything in the matrix system is conducive to the material world, and the material world is what controls your emotions, and where your emotions is controlled by the material world, that puts you in a state of evolution. I mean, not evolution, but puts you in a state to be acclimated to the illusions of the three-dimensional matrix system.
What would you describe as operating in a 0 point energy that you just mentioned, and not dealing with polarity?
Operating in 0 point energy is to be content. You can be content while being in the state of evolution. Like I can buy a new car, and be okay with it for, I don't need another car next year. So like I said, people get a brand new car and they see another car and they want a new car. What you buy, what I'm saying, it's going to eventually get old. That's an illusion. It's all about being content with what you got while being in a state of evolution, because like I said, that's what the matrix does. It puts you in a state to where you operating on a dualistic principle, and the dualistic principle of the matrix system is the illusion.
We see a lot of these monuments have a direct correlation with the Sirius star constellation. A lot of the pyramids, from whether it's the Western Hemisphere or the Eastern Hemisphere, Africa, or places in the, because what star, what is the Grand Canyon connected to? Is it connected to a certain constellation? What was this ancient connection?
I know it's in alignment with the Milky Way galaxy, which
you said that, you said that.
In alignment with the Milky Way galaxy, because I think that's the Milky Way is the Earth zone. So, and it's also a portal to, like I said, created this dynamic and this phenomenon of the Aurora Borealis. We also connected to that because the cymatic frequency and the octave energy of the solar flares from the inner sun is what created that phenomenon in itself of the Aurora Borealis. But the Grand Canyon is definitely in alignment with the Milky Way galaxy.
So where's this inner sun? You said the solar flare is not from the sun out there, but you said from the inner sun.
No, it was projected from Nibiru.
Nibiru, okay.
Yeah, it's a sun called Asfu, which means solar to Earth. And that 600-mile diameter sun, it just sits in the middle. It's intrinsic solar radiation. So that's why you ever seen the movie, the Avatar movie?
Yeah.
So the new one, that's why, you know, you had a certain demographic of people, they had to wear a face mask to withstand the hydrogen based atmosphere. So that's what's happening on our planet right now as we going from a 3-dimensional state to a 4th-dimensional state. So that's why you see a great majority of these athletes collapsing and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying?
A lot of people, newscasters, a lot of people just collapsing out of nowhere.
Yeah, because that's the vibrational frequency because the Shoma resonance, which vibrates 7.83 megahertz frequency, is the heartbeat of the planet. Right. So when your heart is not working in symbiotic connection with the planet, it can cause it can decimate you at a biological level and at a neurological level as well.
So you're saying we're gonna start seeing more of that?
This is just a synopsis of everything that's going on. The more it gets hot on this planet, you're gonna see a lot more of people collapsing, a lot of people having a lot more heart attacks and things of that nature.
So what do you think about so much cosmic talk and planetary talk and moon talk? What's your thoughts on this whole flat Earth versus round Earth argument that everybody seems to have on the internet?
Well, I never really got into the flat Earth dynamic, but I know that as far as like hollow Earth, I know that the inception of the planet, you have many different caverns and cave systems that leads you to hollow Earth. And the reason I say that is because that's where you get the whole theological story of Yakub. And that's where that's where his bloodline, who is the Shiuk in the Danakil tribe, they came from inside the planet. So that flat Earth basically decimates a whole story of how everybody was created on this planet. For a certain demographic of people or a certain bloodline. When you're talking about the Canaanites and the Flugarites and when you're talking about the East Indians and how everything started with genetic splicing in 4086 BC on the island of Patmos or Pelon. So that whole story would be decimated if you just go with the flat Earth theory, because like I said, the inception of how you had many different demographics of people on this planet, a great majority of those beings they came from inside the planet, because intelligent life doesn't live on the surface, it lives inside. So you had another extraterrestrial race, the Conehead beings called the Sini tribe. You got the Sinis, that's where they got that in the movies. The movie,
yeah,
that's where they got that from.
Where was this race from? The Semi or
the Sini tribe? They live inside the planet. That's his mom, Yakub's mother. She was from the Sini tribe. And Yakub's father was from the Danakil tribe, who is the Shiuk.
Yeah. So that's why they call him the big head scientist.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. So do you think these inner Earth beings are going to come up to the surface more and more? What you said from 2023 to 2030, you said you gave it a name from 2023 to 2030. Are we going to start seeing more of these Conehead beings or whoever it is that live in the inner Earth?
It's a possibility. I mean, I don't like to get into the whole mysticism or whatever, but I mean, there's a reason why we're seeing a lot more UFO phenomenon in our atmosphere. Yeah. Like everybody, you go on the internet, it's a great majority of people showing, UFOs, and there was a lady that I had on my I showed a video, and she seen the mothership in the atmosphere. And that's the reason why the vibrational frequency of the planet is going back into its original balance, because like I said, the mothership has the ability to send cymatic energy and frequencies to raise up the vibrational frequency of the planet to where you have certain people on the planet to bring about this edification. So this is why this is your personification of the Great Awakening. This is why you have 1/3 of people in America not going to church anymore. They just put that out in the news not too long ago.
Wow. So with these, you talk about seeing a mothership. Like the other day, I played a clip. This sister was on my show, Isis Wisdom, and an orb went over her head, and I played it, and a lot of people couldn't see it. And I played it like 5 times, and some people seen it, some people didn't see it. Why do you think certain people could see orbs or see things, and certain people can't see them?
That's because when you stuck in a artificial construct, that creates a mental curse under a sleep spell, because you still have people, even though they're trying to ascend out of a three-dimensional state, they still might be acclimated to a three-dimensional state. So this is why you only have people can see 10% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So you can't see energy, frequencies, and vibration, because everything is been subjugated by a three-dimensional matrix system, to where you can only see things with your two physical eyes, polarity, and not your spiritual eye.
No, indeed, indeed. What can you tell me about our sun right now? Like, how old is our sun now? Because you was talking about this moon that we got now is not the moon that we had before. What about our sun? How old would you say our sun, and is this our original sun that we had on the planet?
Well, I know that thought, which is the personification of ether, thought is what created this dynamical process of having a sun in our atmosphere, because light travels at 186,000 miles per square feet. So when you have these thoughts, when light breaks into a dimension, it can reverse the polarity of time and things of that nature. So intrinsic thoughts is what created the manifestation of the sun. So I really don't know how old the sun is. I'm not gonna lie, but
But you said our thoughts created
everything. Thoughts become things. The ethers is what the ethers through atomic fusion is what created the sun.
That's very interesting. Now, what about, I seen somebody in the chat talked about, and this is something people are reporting more and more, ringing in the ears. What can you tell us about ringing in the ears? Is that some form of communication at this point?
Yeah, it means that you're supposed to be in alignment for reception. So when I hear ringing in the ears, that is, I call it a trumpet. Those are cymatic frequencies, and you're supposed to be in alignment and put yourself in a meditative state, so where you can be receptive to that energy and that vibration, to where you never know, that's like a wink from the universe. Like when you see synchronicities and numbers, and when you hear the ringing in the ears and things of that nature, those are basically winks from the universe, to where you can tap into that energy and get a download. Something from the universe and the ethers that's trying to make you communicate with something.
Indeed, indeed. What are some ways, since we're talking about ringing in the ears, what are some ways you think people could tap in to extrasensory perceptions and tap into these downloads, or just ancestors or these beings that may be talking to them? How can we tune into that more at this point, would you say?
I say the more you cleanse.
Okay.
You're cleansing and detoxing. And and get a lot of massages, because that way it can stop you having from energy blockages. That's why a lot of people cannot reap the benefits of tapping into their higher mental abilities, because like I said, everything on this planet, from genetically modified foods, from the recreational drugs and liquor, everything is basically subjugated the anatomy of who we are on this planet. So the best way to tap into that energy is to do a lot of fasting and a lot of cleansing.
And you say massage and that, like
get all them energy blockages out. Yeah.
Yaki talks about that with the lymphatic system.
Yeah.
We
definitely got to flush out your lymphatic system, because like I said, fasting, when you break down the prefix of the word Ramadan, Rama means to burn out. So anything that you can't fast from, you're a slave to it. That's why, in order to reap the benefits of getting those receptions from these pantheon of gods, or to where you can get a download from the ethers, the best way to do that is, to cleanse and raise up your vibrational frequency.
Since we're talking about raising our vibrational frequency, you're familiar with grounding, right?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about grounding and planting your feet, but I know sometimes I would hear stories of people who want to heal themselves. They will bury their whole body in dirt.
Wow.
Yeah. You ever heard of that? And if you have, could you?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Some people, they bury themselves, their whole body in dirt. So I could imagine what that do. You know what I'm saying?
It probably sends an electrical charge to the body. That's what it does, because I told you we're bioelectric. The carbonated body is a bioelectric entity. So that's how you can receive more electrons to the body, to where the body can basically transmute itself, because I told you it's a light cold transducer, so you absorb everything around you.
Indeed. Now, as far, looking at us as antennas, hold on, let me see if I can pull something up real quick. I wanted to show a certain shape, but I can't see it. Being that we're antennas, we know we move, and technology is an emulation of us, and we move antennas certain ways. Is there a certain posture, whether it's a yogic yoga or whatever, that is the most effective in terms of tuning in to that quantum field?
You saying, is there a certain posture to where you
a certain like way you could fix your body, like yoga wise or meditation wise? They got mudras, I forgot what they call and stuff like that. Have you ever got into that science?
No, I never got into yoga and the mudras and things of that nature. I've never tapped into that energy at all. But I know for a fact that it has the ability to open up portals and vortexes within you. It puts you in alignment with your 7 energy cortexes.
Yeah.
It activates the endocrine system.
What do you think about, I don't want to say the certain word because we know channels got shut down during the last 2 years, but they was telling us to stay away from people. Do you think there's something spiritual about them not wanting us within 5? I'm not gonna even say the number, but within 3 feet of people. Is there something spiritual that's going on that's being transferred that we may not be aware of, where they did not want us next to somebody?
Yeah, because they, like I said, they know that as far as like the keys to the universe, especially when you have, so-called black people, when we're around each other, that is a high energy. That's a high frequency and vibration. So when you have us working in symbiotic connection with nature, as the planet is going through a metamorphic shift, we have the ability to open up stargates and portals. That's why, like I said, when they say something is restricted from the public, that's really a translation of saying it's restricted from black people, but they cannot say that. They know if we went there and you bought, all those Kemetic drums, African drum beats, you'll be able to open up portals.
That's deep. And you said when they say people are restricted, they really mean black people. Wow, that's deep. That is deep. So as far as the 9 ether beings, everybody, one thing Rod Hayes says is all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And we talked about certain non-playable characters that exist down here that are like basically operating from egregors. Talk to me about people who look like non-ether beings but are not non-ether beings. Can you talk about that? Like maybe they are truly our enemy and they come from somewhere else, but they look like us. Could you go into that?
Well, you have a diametrical difference between the seeds of Enki and the seeds of Enlil. Now, the seeds of Enlil, they are subjugated by everything in the material world, as far as like politics, religion. These are the people who are connected to the Freemasonic order, which is a Jewish proxy. But these afflictions of that seed, they are the ones who construct everything. They're the ones who keeping this, this matrix system going.
Well, like the boule?
Yeah, boule, people in the music industry, gatekeepers and things of that nature. So those are the people I said as far as like the seeds of Enlil. So all skin folk and kinfolk. So those are the same people from the inception of when they stole our birthright. When you had the Algonquins, when they kicked the dirty Moors out of Spain and they came over here and things of that nature and stole our birthright. So that's all those key players, they came from the seeds of Enlil. So that's a delineation. So that's why I tell people all the time, all so-called black people ain't my people. Especially the ones in politics, especially the ones who is not trying to raise up the vibrational frequency with the truth. These are the ones who's trying to, tell people to, get the what, so they can go to work, so they can go to church, so they can, be in politics and things of that nature.
So I think Noble Drew Ali birthday just passed, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. But how important was his teaching? Because you talked about the dirty Moors. How important do you vibe with his teaching? How important was his teaching do you think to our people?
His teaching was the edification that he brought about. I mean, like I said, it teaches you. His teaching teaches you about the socio-political aspect of civics, and it goes into a little bit of theology, but it was basically to bring you out of that concept in itself, because he knew that you had the Jesuit dirty Moors. That's why he was, tapping into many different denominations of the Moorish paradigm. So like I said, he was just trying to find out. He was like the spook who sat by the door. He's the one that was galvanizing all the information to bring us out of the situation of dogmatic belief systems and things of that nature.
No, indeed. Yeah. Wow. Once again, family, shout out to everybody tuned in. We got almost 3,000 people in the building. If you came in late, a new brother is on the channel, BDELL, awesome young brother. Tell the people your YouTube channel before we continue, brother.
My YouTube channel is BDELL1014. It's the same title as my name on the screen. That's my Instagram name. And then I'm Brydell Rice Bay on Facebook.
You got a CASHAPP, BDELL, for people who may want to support you financially?
Well, let me say this for first thing. I don't put out the edification for money, so I would never, try to monetize off my people. But I do have a Cash App. It's $ Brydell Rice, BRYDELLRICE. And the reason I say that is because we